So how many people here that were here last evening made a few new connections in their brain? Yes? You learned a few new things. So as I said last night, we are going to develop concepts and ideas today. And we are going to use the contemporary language of mysticism, which is science. And as you begin to embrace that information and understand it, I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and explain it. And between the two of you, you have to build a model of understanding. So, can you turn to the person next to you, look him in the eye and say, I am going to give you my absolute best when it comes to describing this model. Can you make that deal with the person next to you? Paying attention is being present. And it's a skill just like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And you know when someone's present with you in your life, it's because they're paying attention. And you know when they're not present with you is when they're not paying attention. And you only need a teenager to understand this. So then we have this mobile thing called awareness. We can unfold the past bitter memory that's tattooed in the recesses of our gray matter, and like magic, we can bring it to life. And in that moment, it's real. And you lost the present moment and you went to the past. Would you agree? Yes. Or you can begin to anticipate some future outcome in your life. And to the exclusion of everything else, all of your attention goes on that image. And you lost the present moment. So paying attention is being present. And the research shows that when you're not present with information, that if you continue on past that point, your comprehension goes down incrementally. So all of a sudden, the model that you're building all of a sudden has weak legs. And I don't want your model to have any weakness. Because in your weakest moment, in your darkest night, I don't want you to talk yourself out of possibility. I want you to apply this information. So then, if I'm carrying on talking about the quantum model of reality, and all of a sudden you're thinking about your hair appointment on Tuesday, and who you're going to go to dinner with tonight, and you lowered the volume to your external environment, and you were paying attention to your inner world. And the person sitting next to you was all enthusiastic, and they start explaining the whole quantum model of reality. You have no idea what they're talking about. Can you make a deal with the person next to you that when you lose your attention, you're going to say, hang on a second, I have no idea what he said. I have no idea what you just said. I was thinking about the kind of hairstyle I was going to wear to the wedding in 3 weeks. Can you do that? Turn the person next to you and make that deal, please. The funny thing about that is that we do that all the time. It's a habit. It's an unconscious habit. And people are nodding and they're doing all that body language stuff, but they're somewhere else. And we call that normal. But every time you become conscious that you're going unconscious, and you return back to the present moment, you're breaking a habit. And if I do my job really well, you will be so present the entire day that time and space are going to warp. And it's going to be like the end of the day, and you don't know where it went because you are continuously in the present moment. How many people understand? Yes. So now, I also understand change very well. I work on it every single day of my life, personally and I have the privilege of witnessing human transformation quite often. And I know that 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is the body conditioned to be the mind. The servant is now the master. And the body clings to the familiar emotions and familiar habits because it's afraid of the unknown, because the survival gene is switched on. And so, I know when we come up against change, the person is standing on the cliff, change their energy and is no longer caring about how cold the water is or how deep it is or which way the current's moving, they're jumping. But you know, just before they jump, the body always gives a little, "You sure about this?" So if by chance you come to the edge and your partner comes to the edge, all of a sudden you turn around to share with them and you see this string of saliva running down their shirt. One eye is closing and they're twitching, trying to escape. Would you make a deal with the person next to you that you will do whatever it takes to keep them awake today? So reason this with me. You're here because, in some measure, you believe that you create your life. Would you agree? Yes. That you, on some degree, believe that your thoughts have an effect on your destiny. Yes. So then, if you're not being defined by a vision of the future, then you're just left with the memories of the past. And your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of the past. So the moment you wake up in the morning and you come back to your senses and you say, wait, where's my pain? Oh, there it is, okay. Okay, wait, let me think about all my problems. Oh, there's that person that I want to murder, and this person is ruining my life, and I'm going to tell this person this, and then you check your cell phone, and then you think about that person and that place and that thing and that particular time. You've just reactivated the circuits in your brain that are connected to your past memories. Are you with me still? Yes. And then all of a sudden, you got to give your body the juices it needs to reaffirm the identity that you're living by that's based on some experiences emotionally in the past. So then you got to think about all those things and all those people that evoke emotional responses that you're using in your external environment to reaffirm your addiction to some emotion. Are you with me still? Yes. Now, I woke up this morning early and I wanted to talk straight to you, so here we go. So the moment you're living by those emotions, and those emotions are driving your thoughts, you're thinking in the past. And you're going to be predictable in your life. And then when you continuously think the same way, act the same way, and feel the same way, but really expect something to change in your life, you get frustrated, you get impatient, you get judgmental, because that's what happens when we're living in survival and we are matter trying to change matter. We're in a program. Are you with me still? Yes. So then people say to you, "Juanito, why are you this way?" And then Juanito says, "I am this way because of these experiences or this experience that happened to me 21 years 6 months and 15 days ago." Which means then, from a biological standpoint, he was altered from some past experience, and the experience created a heightened emotion, and that emotion then caused him to pay attention, take a picture of what it was in his external environment, and now his brain and body are in the past. And if he can't overcome that emotion, and we ask him, "Why is this way?" And he says, "I am this way because of this experience." What it means biologically, that experience altered me, and I haven't been able to change since. Are you with me still? Yes. And then he tells the story. He tells the narrative. And the latest research on memory shows that 50% of what you talk about in your past isn't even the truth. That memory is creative because you have a different brain than you did 21 years ago. So then you tell the story and you embellish it. You get creative. You use your imagination. There were lions and tigers. There were all kinds of predators around me. And then all of that is firing and wiring the same circuits in your brain, all to produce a similar emotion to reaffirm your identity. That most people would rather hold on to suffering, hold on to guilt, than step into the unknown. They would rather live in constant judgment and victimization than take a chance in possibility. They'd rather hold on to their anger because of what someone did to them a long time ago and use that anger to abuse others, to reaffirm that emotion and make other people feel the way they're feeling. Are you with me still? Yes. And all of that, of course, is reaffirming the personality into the past, and that person will be predictable in their life. And the more emotional they feel, and that emotion from the past is running them, the more they'll behave like they were in their past. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, if you're not waking up every morning and being defined by a vision of the future, and marrying a clear intention with an elevated emotion and changing your energy, then for the most part, you're living from the memories of the past. Because the body emotionally has been conditioned to be the mind, and it's in the past. And the brain is a record of the past. And the person's entire state of being, how they think and how they feel is their state of being, is continuously reaffirming the past. And the energy that they broadcast into the field, remember, thoughts are the electrical charge in the quantum field, and feelings are the magnetic charge. And how you think and how you feel is broadcasting energy all around you on a moment-to-moment basis. And the higher the emotion, the more elevated it is, the bigger the field. And that field, that energy, that frequency is carrying information. It's your thoughts, it's your intent. But if you continuously draw from this invisible field of energy and live in suffering, live in pain, live in victimization, you continuously tap this field. You still have a field, and you're still broadcasting, but it's going to take longer for you to create what you want because you're more matter and less energy, more particle, less wave. But you're still broadcasting into the quantum field. Oh, infinite intelligence, universal mind, I'm broadcasting the signature of suffering into my world. Bring me an experience of suffering, but bring it in a way that I least expect, that surprises me, that leaves no doubt that it's come from you so I can suffer a little bit more. Come on, are you with me? Yes. So we're not punished for our sins, we are punished by our sins. And sin is an attitude. Are you with me still? Yes. And I know that justified or not, I know valid or not, given the circumstances in your life, if you're continuously living by that emotion, that those emotions downregulate genes and create disease. So who in your world is worth it that you keep them enslaved and chained to the past so that you can continuously reaffirm that emotion when you think of them? And you're doing that by thought alone. Are you with me still? Yes. Yeah. So then I said last night, I tell my advanced students all the time, hey, I'm not going to take it personally that you're not creating your future. It's your choice. It just means you're more in love with your past than you are in love with the future, period. And you're believing in your past more than you're believing in your future. And you're more committed to your past than committed to a future. How many people understand? And this is why I do not take questions anymore, because I've done it enough times. And I now know that no new information can come into a person's nervous system that isn't equal to the emotion that they're experiencing. And the person can walk on the stage, And I go, hey, what's up, man? What's up? And I go, wait. Are you doing the work? No, you don't understand. No, I do understand. Are you doing the work? No, just answer. No. Are you doing the work? No. And I know that no matter what I tell that person, I could give them the answer that is the correct answer, and they will argue against me because that information is not equal to their emotional state. And you know what I say to them? Hey, take the ride with me. Give me 3 days, give me 2 days, and give me everything you have. Give me your best. That's all I want from you. Cross the river. Get beyond that emotion. And a memory without an emotion is called wisdom. And now the soul is ready to go. And that person comes up against themselves. They come up against their pain. They come up against their judgment. They come up against their doubt. They come up against their fears. They come up against their beliefs. They stop believing that this is even true. They come right up against that. And the people who continue on in spite of that and break out and step into the unknown, they are free now. And they look back at the old self and they come up with the answer to their own question. And now they're free and they belong to a future instead of belonging to a past. And now they, in their own epiphany, in their own enlightenment, begin to realize and awaken. And so then, I also know that when you change a person's emotional state, and they can create gratitude without getting something yet, that the emotional signature of gratitude is receiving. That when you feel gratitude, it means you're getting something. You've received something. So most people wait for somebody to give them something to feel gratitude. That's how they've been hypnotized. That's how they've been conditioned. But in fact, then, if you start changing your emotional state, in spite of all the things going on in your life, you maintain a level of gratitude independent of the conditions in your external environment. You're starting to master your environment. Are you with me still? Yes. And I now know that when a person's in a state of gratitude, a state of receivership, a state of worthiness, a state of inspiration, a state of care and love for life and a joy for existence and exuberance for the moment, that they'll accept, believe, and surrender to information equal to that emotional state, and they begin to program their autonomic nervous system into a destiny. And this is my big beef with affirmations. You could say, I'm wealthy, 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 I'm wealthy. But all along, you're feeling unworthy. That thought is going to stop right at your brainstem, and it's not going to go any further because mind and body are in opposition. Are you with me still?
Yes.
But when you feel abundant and you feel worthy, you naturally say, I am abundant. You're affirming your state of being. You're not pushing against yourself. You've just taken your brain and body out of the past. That's the only difference. Yes?
Yes.
So then, remember last night, 90% of the thoughts that you think are the same thoughts as the day before. So then those thoughts leading to choices that lead to behaviors that lead to experiences that produce certain emotions that you can predict, those feelings. The moment you begin to think about a future experience and you can predict the emotion of that experience, it's a known. And you're marrying a clear intention with an emotion, and you keep recreating your past. Are you with me still? Now, you've done nothing wrong. You're just taking too long. You're just caught in a program. And your reality is equal to that state of being. But you would have to agree with me that new thoughts should lead to new choices. And new choices should lead to new behaviors. And new behaviors should create new experiences. And new experiences should produce new emotions. And those new emotions should inspire new thoughts. And that's called evolution. And so then we are, remember, thinking, choosing, behaving, or acting, experiencing, and feeling the same way hardwires your brain into a set of programs, automatic programs. But as you begin to learn new information, you're adding new stitches into the three-dimensional tapestry of your gray matter, and now you have the raw materials to begin to think differently. And as you begin to think differently, you're causing your brain to fire in new sequences, in new patterns, and in new combinations. And whenever you make your brain work differently, you're changing your mind. Because mind is the brain in action. And so if you do your job really well today in sharing information, you're going to start changing your mind. And you are going to begin to perceive the problems in your life from a new level of mind. You're going to begin to perceive a future from a new level of mind. And you may actually make a choice equal to that future, which means you're starting to believe in your future more than you're believing in your past. Come on. And you may actually behave like an abundant person, just for the hell of it. And you may actually create an experience where money shows up out of nowhere. It's happened hundreds and hundreds of times in this work. And it may actually lead to you feeling more abundant. And you may feel so abundant that you give your money away. Because you feel so abundant and you know that you are abundant and there'll always be more. And other people start seeing you do that and they think, she's on the wrong medication. I knew it about her. But you no longer care what other people think. Because you're no longer using that person to reaffirm your addiction to lack. You're feeling way too worthy and abundant. And you see a part of yourself that you used to be, that you no longer are, and you love that person more instead of judge them. And then you're at the shopping supermarket in the line. And instead of judging the person in front of you for the food they're buying, you're feeling this incredible amount of love. And you're opening your heart, and all of a sudden you're radiating this energy into the entire supermarket, carrying the intent that everybody's lives be enriched at the Safeway. And you feel unbelievable. And then you get in your car and you stop at the red light and there's traffic, and all of a sudden you're feeling so selfless. You're going like this. And you're a little bit late, but you're not stressed. And you show up and everybody's late and nobody's worried about it. And all of a sudden now, you become more productive. You become more lighthearted. You start letting go. And all of a sudden, the mysterious and the magical is happening all around you. And people ask you, what did you do? And you begin to say, I just broke a habit of being my old self, and I just began to reinvent myself. And I just started practicing it, thinking about it all the time, acting like it, feeling like it. And I turned into a new personality. And a new personality creates a new personal reality. How are you doing? Turn the person next to you and explain. Oh, come on, you can do this. I also know, after looking at all those brain scans, in real time, that when you're analyzing your life within some disturbing emotion that's familiar to you, you're going to make your brain worse. I've seen it over and over and over again, because those emotions of survival are arousing your brain to become overly analytical, and your brain moves into high beta brainwave patterns. And when that occurs, and you're thinking in the box of that emotion, you're going to cause your brain to move higher and higher out of balance. Because that emotion is a record of the past, and you are thinking in the past. And all of the analysis in the world in that familiar emotional state is not going to change the condition in your life. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, if you're waking up every single morning and you're not being defined by a vision of the future and you're living by the memories of the past, And then as you get up in the morning and you run through the same routine behaviors that you've memorized and can do so well, and for the most part you're running programs, then you would have to agree with me then, you're programmed into a predictable future based on what you've been doing in the past. Are you with me still?
Yes.
And then you get up in the morning, now listen, and as you see the same people, and as you go to the same places, and you do the exact same things at the exact same time, it's no longer that your personality is creating your personal reality. It's now that your personal reality is creating your personality. And you're thinking equal to your environment. And the environment, that person, that thing, that place, that object, that experience, is actually turning on old circuits in your brain from the past. Are you with me still?
Yes.
And so then, now your environment is controlling how you think and how you feel, because that thought produces an emotion. And your state of being now is completely in the past. And your environment then is regulating your internal states. And as you think the same way and feel the same way, and those feelings signal certain genes, there's a tango that's going on between the outer world of matter and the inner world of biology. And there's a match. And those thoughts then, equal to your environment that are producing certain feelings, are creating the same state of being, and you're recreating the same life. And now person's trapped in their environment and nothing changes until there's some breakdown or crisis. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then to change then is to be greater than your environment, be greater than the conditions in your life, to be greater than the circumstances in your world, and every great person in history knew this. They weren't going to be defined by the past, present. They were going to be defined by a future present. And they were going to begin to live as if that future reality was already happening in front of them. Couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, couldn't taste it, couldn't feel it, couldn't hear it, but to them, it was alive in their mind. It was so alive in their mind that they began to behave as if it already happened. They belonged to the future. So then, if you're not creating a new future, then for the most part, your environment is controlling how you think and feel. And when that occurs, we are victims to our environment. How many people are with me? Turn the person next to you and have an enthusiastic conversation about that, please. Come on, you can do this. Would you agree then that if you're thinking certain thoughts that turn on different circuits in your brain, and those thoughts signal another part of your brain to make a chemical for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, and the moment you feel suffering, the moment you feel guilt, the moment you feel unworthy, those emotions are driving corresponding thoughts, and you're firing and wiring the same circuits in your brain, hardwiring your brain even further, and then producing the same chemicals to reaffirm that same emotional state. And the redundancy of that cycle conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind. Now the body is the mind of guilt. It is the mind of suffering. It's its state of being. So would you agree with me then that to change then is to be greater than your body? Yes. To be greater than your body as the mind. And so then if you've conditioned your body to be the mind, and that emotion is keeping it anchored to the past, and that's 95% of who you are, would you agree with me then? If you try to drag that body into the future, it's going to want to be holding on to the past. Yes? This is why people don't change. But I'm telling you, the spirit is always willing, but the flesh is weak. And it takes a great will. Listen to me, wow. Where did that come from? It takes a great will to be greater than the body is the mind. I know I have sat with my body for hours, watching it, observing it, coming to the point where I just couldn't go any further because I was just sitting there. Did you get that? I'm just sitting there. And I have to continuously overcome all the things I have to do, all the people I have to see, all the emails I have to answer, all the places I have to go, all those appointments. My body wants to get up and get going. And I keep saying, Stay. You stay right there. And then it gets angry and frustrated and emotional and patient and unworthy, and there I am in my past. Get over here. And I do that again, and then it starts saying, well, you know, you don't have enough time to do this. You should be doing other things. Okay, get over here. And I keep doing that. And every time I keep doing it, I'm reconditioning my body to a new mind. And I have had moments where I thought I was going crazy. I honestly thought that I was losing my mind, and I was. But that's the mind I needed to lose. You understand? Because you are at the end of your emotional belief at that point, and the body doesn't trust in the unknown. But if you keep surrendering it back down into the present moment, and it's not getting up and doing things and experiencing things and feeling things to reaffirm the same person, it's craving the familiar emotions so it could reaffirm who you are. And it's doing everything it can to stay in the past. You understand what I'm talking about, yes? Yeah. And you keep bringing it back to the present moment over and over again, just like training an animal. It's going to throw everything at you. It's going to bring up your, college boyfriend. The one that cheated on you, and you are going to get all of its, the body's doing everything it can to be the mind. And you keep insisting that you're the mind. Sooner or later, the moment the body trusts you and relaxes into the present moment, there's going to be a liberation of energy. And you're going to go from particle to wave, from matter to energy. And that liberation of energy is a very, very specific feeling. And that's when the body finally is no longer enslaved to the past or a predictable future. It's relaxed into the present moment, and now it starts to trust you. And would you agree, if you keep practicing being present with your body over and over again, keeping it in the present moment, it's going to become a habit? Yes. And if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you've just mastered some aspect of yourself just by sitting there, would you agree that you'll be more present in your life with everyone and everything? When it comes time to heal someone, it comes time to make a decision, it comes time to change your state of being, you'll have enough energy to do that because you're in the present moment. Are you with me still? Yes. And so then, if you labor for that present moment then you would have to agree with me, if you're completely in the present moment, you're paying attention and you should be able to create, because you have all that energy to create with. Are you with me still? Now the observer is observing you into life. You are an extension of it. It's an observer. It's a loving intelligence, an intelligent love. That's what it is. And it's trying to express itself through us. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, if your observer is constantly present with you like a mirror, and all of your attention is on people and things and places and stuff and all that stuff, and you're analyzing and here's the observer going like, hey, I'm over here. And you're not present with it. But don't you know, when you're in the present moment, you're looking right in the mirror, and it's going to reflect that image back into your world. Are you with me still? So then, just like you know when someone isn't present with you in your life because they're not paying attention, this is an omnipresent, objective intelligence that's loving us into life. And you have to be present with it like you want to be your teenager to be present with you. And it takes that kind of will to move into the present moment. So then here's my question. Would you agree then, if to change is to be greater than your environment, if the change is to be greater than your body, and if the change is to be greater than time, the predictable future, the familiar past being the present moment, would you agree then that if you believe that your thoughts and your feelings created your reality, would you agree then it might be a good idea to sit down and close your eyes and disconnect from the external environment? Yes. To diminish the amount of sensory information coming in through your eyes so it doesn't activate the same circuits in the same way. Are you with me still? Is it a good idea to play some music in the background or shove some earplugs in your ears to diminish the amount of information that you're hearing? Yes. Would it be a good idea to sit your body down in one place and not let it get up and do things and experience things that are familiar to you to create the same emotions? And all of a sudden now, as you disconnect from your environment and you sit your body down, you're not eating, you're not tasting, you're not smelling, you're not feeling your body. It's not feeling anything. And if you can sit in the present moment and not think about your schedules and the people you have to see in the predictable future or the memories of the past, and your brain and body were completely in the present moment, then you should be able to change your brain and body by thought alone, because the size of the frontal lobe becomes the movie screen. And you get to live in that future reality in the present moment. And your brain does not know the difference between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. And the moment the thought becomes the experience, the end product of an experience is called a feeling or an emotion, and you start feeling like that future. And would you agree then? If you got up and came back to your senses, you would be firing new circuits in new ways. Yes or no? Yes. You would be creating new chemicals that would cause your body to be conditioned to the mind of the future instead of the mind of the past. And if you keep doing it over and over again, your brain and body are going to begin to change. And who knows? You may actually think like an abundant person. You may act like a saint. You may feel unlimited your entire day because you changed your state of being. And if you're able to maintain that modified state of being your entire day, something unusual or different should happen in your life. Would you agree? Isn't that the law? And when that unexpected event comes out of nowhere, and you are surprised by it, and the energy of that experience creates more love of self, more of a passion for life, that you feel more worthy and unlimited, could you not use that energy to create again tomorrow? And would you agree then you would move from being a victim in your life to being a creator in your life? How many people are with me? Turn the person next to you and have a robust conversation about that, please. How's your model? How's your model looking? How you doing? Good. Is this making sense to you? I'm speaking to the part of you that already knows this. Because the only way for you to step into a new future is you have to confront the very aspect of you that isn't going there. Are you with me still? So then, when people begin the process of change, they have to stop making the same choices. And when they do that, they step into the unknown. They step into that place of uncertainty. They're feeling uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar to them. They can't predict what's going to happen. So then they rush back to the familiar just so they can feel safe being anxious. And people torment their brain and body over and over and over again. And so, in this work, if you have a glass of wine with me, and I'm just not about the past. I mean, I have friends, dear friends. I sit down to dinner and they just go off about their past. And you know what I say to them? I mean, these are people that go unconscious. I say, when are you going to stop telling that story of your past? Why don't you tell me a story of your future? Because that's what I'm more interested in. And wouldn't it be nice to meet people on that level at a dinner table instead of people going off, "Did you hear Mary's in the hospital again?" So then, stepping out into the unknown takes courage. You got to be willing to be uncomfortable and be okay with it. But, you're looking around when you're in the process of change, looking to see if anybody else is doing it. And they're all afraid to make a move. So everybody stays in that familiar area. And guess what? You watch the news, you're going to get a little angry. You watch television, you may suffer a little bit. You read the newspapers, you may feel a little prejudice. All of that is to create separation in people. People cling to the familiar, and they're afraid to take a chance in the unknown. But remember, the soul's interest is the unknown, adventure. There's a lot for us to experience on the way back, to tell the story of our journey. And so then, living by those familiar feelings then causes people to argue for their limitations with others who are doing the same. And that creates relationships. So then, if you're in that unknown, and you understand the best way to predict your future in the unknown is to create it. And that when you start believing in a future more than believing in the past, you belong to a future instead of you belonging to a past. And yeah, you're going to have to forego your social engagements. You're going to have to break away from your cell phone for an hour. Yeah, you're going to have days where you're not going to feel like doing it. But that's what mediocrity does. But when you continue to be possessed by that vision of the future, and yeah, it's going to take some effort. I'm sure Martin Luther King came out some mornings waking up feeling a little bit fearful. But he didn't walk through those doors and step out into the world until he was courage and justice. Just his state of being. That's what made him great. So yeah, there are going to be days when you're going to have to come up against yourself. And you're going to have to change your state of being without a television show, without an internet connection, without a phone call. You're going to have to change your state of being by thought alone. And you better start thinking about what thoughts you do want to put your attention and your energy behind, and fire and wire those thoughts in your brain. You better think about the behaviors and choices you're going to make in your life while you're in that state inward. And you better rehearse it until it starts to become familiar to you. And you better say to yourself, can I teach my body emotionally what this future is going to feel like ahead of the actual event? And in the beginning, it's going to feel a little weird because we're reversing the process. Instead of waiting for something outside of us to change how we feel inside of us, we're beginning to understand when we change how we feel inside of us, how it's going to affect what goes on outside of us. That's turning a big battleship around. But you got to do it. In the beginning, you say, I don't feel anything. Well, that's because you're used to watching movies to feel something, or smooching on somebody to feel something. But I'm asking you to do it by thought alone. And all of a sudden, you start fantasizing and dreaming about that future. And you start letting go and start feeling it. And you start believing in those thoughts equal to your emotional state. You begin to really want to act in that way because you're priming your brain and body into the future. And that process of living in the unknown is not white-knuckling it to the other side. That's not how you cross the river. You cross the river by investing your energy and your attention into a future every single day. And you're uncompromising to it. And every great person in history were uncompromising to visions. And all of a sudden then, as that reality begins to unfold and you start having synchronicities, coincidences, serendipities, opportunities start showing up in your life because you changed your personality, you changed your state of being. You are going to be more loving with everybody in your life. You're going to be more patient. You're going to be more caring, more giving, more willful, more conscious, because you're moving closer to that unified field that's giving you life. And you are marrying your consciousness with its consciousness, and its nature is becoming your nature. Its mind is becoming your mind. And you're less seduced by the things in your life that typically bring you pleasure or pain. Because you're understanding that that joy is coming from within you and not outside of you. And how many people confuse pleasure with joy? It's not the same thing. And remember, the more whole you are, the less need for pleasure you'll have. And the less whole you are, the more need for pleasure you'll have, because you'll rely on something outside of you to take away that feeling of emptiness inside of you. But I'm telling you, this loving intelligence and intelligent love, when it starts to leak through you, it finds a crack, and you start feeling more love, you start feeling differently, you start feeling more joyful for no reason at all. You're not going to want to be distracted by anything outside of you. You're going to want to maintain and focus on this feeling and figure out a way to nurture it, to grow it, to expand it. And every time you do that, you move closer to wholeness, to the unified field. And the more whole you are, the more worthy you are to receive your future. And you're no longer creating from polarity or duality or separation. You feel like you already have it. And you don't rush to any outcomes. You don't fight for it. You don't compete for it. You know it's going to come to you. And how would you live your life if you knew your future was coming? Turn the person next to you and have a lighthearted conversation about that, please. Can I carry on for a few more minutes and then we'll break? Yes. Can I carry on a little bit longer, then we'll break? Turn the person next to you and tell them you have boundless energy and you got this. Hey. So you know that when you trade the idea that your thoughts create reality for a future, you usually trade it for some emotional addiction, period. That's why people stop doing the work, because they're more committed to that emotion of the past than an emotion of the future. And it's difficult to break from those emotions of survival because they're so addictive. So then, living in survival is living in stress. And stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis. Stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. The stress response is what your body innately does to return itself back to order. And any animal in nature, the moment they perceive a threat in their external environment, they have a pattern in their brain, circuitry that matches a pattern in their environment, and they recognize a predator. And the moment there's a pattern recognition, the moment that happens, a primitive nervous system turns on called the fight or flight nervous system, and they begin to mobilize enormous amounts of energy, all of the body's resources, to survive in that environment. And that rush of adrenaline and cortisol awakens and arouses the brain and body for the short term. And now that organism that's running from the predator has a few options. It's going to run, it's going to fight, or it's going to hide and freeze. That's all it's going to do. So then, if that organism survives and outruns the predator, and the event is over, the body returns back to balance, returns back to homeostasis, and it's the autonomic nervous system that's doing that, always trying to create balance and order. But it's willing to move out of balance for a short period of time and tap the body's resources so that it can survive. Survival is more important than balance in that moment. Are you with me still? Yes. So then if you keep turning on that fight or flight response, Short-term stress is really great because when the event is over, everything returns back to balance. But no organism in nature can tolerate living in emergency mode for an extended period of time. And if you keep knocking that autonomic nervous system out of balance, all of a sudden that imbalance is going to become the new balance because it's switched on in anticipation of a threat. Are you with me still? Yes. And now you're headed for disease. Because it's the autonomic nervous system that's controlling and coordinating all the bodily functions without you consciously thinking about it. Are you with me still? Yes. So you have that same primitive nervous system, and that when you and I begin to perceive a threat in our external environment, we do the exact same thing. We draw from this invisible field of light and information, this vital life field, and we begin to turn it into chemistry. And that field around the body continuously shrinks. We've measured this. And now the person is more matter and less energy, more particle and less wave. They're not emitting any information into the field. Now, in the short term, the body can recover, it can eat, it can rest, it can sleep, it can move back to homeostasis, and it builds the field again. But if you're constantly at odds with your coworker, if you're constantly stressed about your finances, if you can't let go of your sister who betrayed you and you're living by those emotions every single day, you would have to agree then that you're headed for some type of genetic destiny because you've tapped all of the body's resources. And now the body is like a piece of matter, a piece of flesh with no energy, and it's going to break down. Are you with me still? Yes. So then when you're living by the hormones of stress and you continuously draw from this invisible field of energy and turn it into chemistry, and the field around your body is diminishing, now you're matter trying to change matter in your life. Are you with me still? Yes. And what do you do when you're matter trying to change matter? You force outcomes. You push for it. You fight for it. You control it. You try to predict it. You manipulate it because you're matter trying to control matter. Are you with me still? Yes. And so the very chemicals of stress heighten the brain and body to move into an aroused state. And under stress, your senses are heightened. And we become materialists, defining reality with our senses. If we can't see it, we can't smell it, we can't hear it, we can't taste it, we can't feel it, it doesn't exist. And we could say it another way, that when you're under stress and those chemicals are activated, you are going to narrow your focus on objects and matter, on the particle in quantum physics, on people and things in your external environment. Are you with me still? Yes. And when you're focusing on matter, you are no longer paying attention to the wave in quantum physics, which is information. Are you with me still? Yes. And so then, over time then, as a materialist, functioning as matter in your environment, you're less likely to create in this state. Why would you want to close your eyes if there's a predator out there? Why would you want to go within and learn and change your internal state when you feel unsafe? And the very chemicals of stress become addictive. And people use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. They need the bad job. They need the bad relationship. They need the difficult past because it's reaffirming their identity emotionally. Are you with me still? Yes. So then if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you're using that person or that circumstance in your life to reaffirm your addiction to that emotion, then you're giving a lot of your power away to someone or something. And it's the emotion that's keeping your attention on it. Are you with me still? Yes. Come on, are you with me? Yes. So then the very hormones of stress then endorse the ego to become selfish. When you're in survival, you are selfish. You got to take care of the self. And you define the self as a body living in an environment in linear time. And in fact, when you're under stress, out of the infinite potentials that exist in the quantum field, you are going to select the worst case scenario and anticipate the event emotionally and get prepared for the worst outcome. And in the short term, when you get it right, you say, hey, I got that right. You should hang out with me. I'm really smart. But what happens when you're wrong or it doesn't happen? You are conditioning the body to become the mind of that emotion. Are you with me still? Yes. And the body is being programmed into that destiny. So out of the infinite potentials in the quantum field, you select the worst possible outcome, and you're emotionally embracing it and marrying a clear intention with an emotion. And you're conditioning your body to be in a predictable future based on the past. Are you with me still? Yes. And why do we do that? Because in survival, if you prepare for the worst and anything less happens, you have better chances of living and surviving. And when the survival gene is switched on, you could have 10 great things happen in your day, but you will focus on that one bad thing. Because in survival, you got to be waiting for it to come again. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, as you draw from this invisible field of energy and you turn it into chemistry and you're shrinking the field around your body, then you are matter living as a body in an environment in time. And people define themselves as a body in an environment in linear time, and that is not who you are. So the more addicted you are to those emotions of stress, the more you believe you're your body. Are you with me still? Yes. And it's reaffirming the very nature of the body in survival. So then people spend the majority of their life living in anger, frustration, aggression, hatred, prejudice, judgment, control, competition, guilt, shame, unworthiness, victimization, depression, anxiety, fear, sadness. And all of those emotions are created by the hormones of stress. And psychology calls those normal states of consciousness. Those are altered states of human consciousness. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, if your attention is on matter, your attention is on objects, on things, people, and where you place your attention is where you place your energy, then for the most part, you're enslaved into three-dimensional reality. Are you with me still? You are matter living in a world of matter, and now you're caught up in the illusion of the dream. Are you with me still? So then, when this occurs, and people spend the majority of their life living by those emotions of stress, they're not going to be interested in creating. What they'll do is they'll have a vision, but we live in a dimension, this three-dimensional reality. There is infinite space. How big is space? Listen, space. It goes on forever, yes? So then, if space is eternal in this realm, you experience time by moving your body through space. And as you move your body through space from one point of consciousness to another, it takes time to get there. Are you with me still? So as I said last night, the more you feel like matter and the less you feel like energy, you're going to get the things you want in your life, but it's going to take some time because you're going to have to drag your body back and forth to work over and over again, living in that limited reality of being able to predict how you're going to pay your bills off. And of course, then, you'll do it, but it's going to take some time. And you're enslaved to the world of Newtonian physics. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, the more addicted we are to the emotions of stress, the less likely we are to create. Why would you create when you're in survival? It's not a time to create. And if you keep tapping from this invisible field of energy and turning it into chemistry, and you're mobilizing all your body's energy for some threat in your external world, there's no energy in your internal world for growth and repair. There's no energy for long-term building projects because there's actually no life force to heal. There's actually no life force to create a new future. There is no energy to heal someone else, to have a mystical experience. We're matter trying to affect matter. Are you with me still? Yes. Turn to the person next to you and talk about how you're no longer going to be stressed out. Am I asking you to not react to people in your life and suppress emotions? No, I react. The question really is how long you're going to react. That's the question, yes? Shortening your emotional reactions to people and things in your life is called emotional intelligence. And those are the people that you want to hang out with. Now, if you can't let go of that emotion, it must mean you're addicted to it. True or false? Because isn't addiction something you can't stop? You just need an Italian grandmother for this one. So it's a scientific fact that the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease. It's a fact. Push the genetic buttons that create disease. Human beings, because of the size of their frontal lobe, can begin to think about the past or think about the future and turn on that stress response just by thought alone. Are you with me still? Yes. They're knocking the brain and body out of balance by a thought. So if you can turn on the stress response just by thought alone, and the hormones of stress or the stress response long-term pushes the genetic buttons that create disease, that means that your thoughts can make you sick. Are you with me still? So if your thoughts could make you sick, is it possible your thoughts could make you well? Okay. So it's a scientific fact that the hormones of stress give the brain and body a rush of adrenaline. And we become junkies to those chemicals. And if you can turn on the stress response just by thought alone, you can become addicted to your own thoughts. Yes or no? Yes. This is why change is so hard. Now, if you're using the people and conditions in your life on a daily basis to reaffirm your addiction to some emotion, then you become addicted to the life you don't even like. And this is why change is so hard. How many people are with me? So then, in survival, the unknown is a scary place. And in survival, it's not a time to go within. I was coming back from a trip from London, and I was getting ready to go to Costa Rica. I was walking on the ranch, and I parked my car, and the front door is way down, like in the corner of the room, a little further. And 225 acres at the end of a 1-mile gravel road, there's nothing out there. And I've walked that property thousands of times, and it's a November evening, and it's very dark in the Pacific Northwest. And there's no lights. And I park my car, and I'm going to walk through this beautiful pathway with these big boulders. There's horses on the ranch, there's dogs on the ranch, there's alpacas. It's a busy place. And there's a river that runs along. And I grabbed my suitcase, and I grabbed my dry cleaning. And I'm going to walk to the corner there. So I start walking, and there's big boulders like this that you walk through. And as I'm walking through, all of a sudden I'm walking, and I hear behind the rock. And the hair on the back of my neck stands up. Now I am narrowing my focus on objects and things, searching my brains for knowns to figure out what's behind that rock. Are you with me still? Yes. So here goes my brain. There's 10 dogs on the property. Tula. Brujo. Camelo. Camilo. Nena. Nothing. I take out my cell phone, switch on the light, I go like this. Put the cell phone in my property, in the back pocket. Now here's my question. Is this a time to create? Is this a time to go within? Is this a time to learn something new? Is this a time to trust in the unknown? Is this a time to open my heart and be vulnerable and give thanks? Would you agree it's time to run, it's time to hide, or it's time to fight? Yes or no? Yes. So then, it would make sense that if you're living addicted to the hormones of stress, that you are going to be focusing on objects and people and things and conditions in your external environment, and you're going to believe that your outer world is more real than your inner world, and you're not going to want to create. Because when the survival gene is switched on, you're not going to want to go within. You'd be vulnerable. You'd be prey. You wouldn't want to open your heart in your life, because it's not a time to open your heart. It goes contrary to the laws of the jungle. So the more people are living in stress and the more they're living in survival, the more they're enslaved into the realm of 3 dimensions. And they won't want to create. They won't want to open their heart. They won't want to trust in the unknown. They won't want to believe in a future because it's not a time to create. How many people understand? Yeah. Turn the person next to you and explain. Then I'll break, I swear. When you're living in survival, and you are putting all your attention on your body, because in survival you better take care of your body, all of your attention is on your environment, like where am I going to run or how am I going to get this to happen, and all of your attention is on time. You're obsessing about how long it's going to take to get from one point to the other because Mr. Big's chasing you down. Then you have to play by the laws of the body, the environment, and time, because you are enslaved into 3 dimensions. Are you with me still? And you are a somebody, a someone, owning something, living somewhere in some time. But you ever notice when you're in the act of creating that you are so present in the moment, you're not thinking about the appointments or people you have to see. You're not thinking of the emotions of your past. All of your attention is in the present moment. And that is the creative state. When you are creative, you forget about yourself. You forget about your name, your face, your hairstyle, your wardrobe, the car you drive, the place you live, the people in your life, the things you have to do. You forget about the people in your past that betrayed you, things you have to do tomorrow. You're completely in the present moment. And in that moment, you become nobody. No one. No thing, nowhere, in no time. You become pure consciousness. And that elegant moment is what begins to connect you to the unified field. And we have seen this so many times in our work. In fact, we can predict it. That person is so caught up in the present moment, all of their attention now moves off of the particle, off of matter, off of this dimension of space and time, and all of their attention goes on possibility, on the wave in quantum physics. And they begin to go from a narrow focus to an open focus. They begin to expand and open up. And when that occurs, the disintegration that was taking place in a brain that was over-aroused in stress, where the networks are no longer communicating with each other, that incoherent brain, the moment the person's no longer thinking, no longer analyzing, no longer caught up in the same networks, they're so present that that autonomic nervous system steps in and it says, it's been about 42 years since he's gotten out of the way. This is a great moment. What a mess! He's gone. So let's create some order. And all of a sudden it starts saying, hey, you communities over here, why don't you start talking to these communities? Well, there's no boundaries here. And as you're no longer thinking, those different networks begin to synchronize. They begin to reach out and hold hands. They all start to dance in rhythm together. They become coherent, and bigger pieces of real estate start functioning more in unison. The brain starts to function in a more holistic state. And that synchronization begins to create the unity of polarity, and the person's starting to feel more whole. Are you with me still? And at the same time, that energy from these first 3 centers, if the person's personality is out of the way and they're no longer thinking and feeling in the same way, all of a sudden that energy moves right up into the heart. Boom. And all of a sudden, there goes the field. It can be up to 9 meters wide. Boom. The person becomes more energy than matter, more wave than particle. And they're feeling blessed. They're in love with life. They're no longer feeling separate, like matter trying to affect matter. They feel connected to something greater. And as that heart starts to move into coherence, it begins to influence the brain into more coherence. And then the brain starts talking with the heart, and now the person's in a completely different state of being. And they would never try to force an outcome in this moment. They would never try to predict it. They know it's going to happen. They just don't care when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen, because it's none of their business when it comes to the unknown. Are you with me still? Yes. And of course, the moment that happens and their energy begins to expand and they feel connected to something greater, they lay that thought on that energy. And they're already accepting that it's possible, because that thought is consistent with the emotion they're experiencing, and they're feeling more unlimited. And in order for you to create something unlimited in your life, you better feel unlimited. And if you are going to emulate the divine, then you better become divine. And if you are going to do something magnificent, you better feel magnificent. And if you are going to empower a new future, you better feel empowered. And that's the energy that begins to change your destiny. Are you with me still? Yes. And I'm telling you, we have seen this so many times in our work. When that brain starts to go into coherence, and the heart is going into coherence, and the whole system, the autonomic nervous system, is processing a greater frequency from the unified field, a more coherent message, that person's biology will be more coherent. In their brain, in their genes, in their heart, in their chemistry, all the hormones are in harmony. We've seen this so many times. I mean, how can a person's oxytocin levels be 227 times normal? Because they're connecting to a loving intelligence, and they're feeling a lot of love, because oxytocin is the love chemical. Are you with me still? Yes. And so, researchers, great friends of mine, who are authors, biologists that have studied my work when I've showed it to them, they've said oxytocin is the love chemical. It's what mammals do when females bond to their offspring, as they groom them, as they lick them, as they touch them, as they hold them. They're creating oxytocin levels between the mother and the child. And oxytocin creates bonding. And it's made in the limbic brain. And when you're in the honeymoon stage of a relationship and you're intimate with another person, that connection, that bonding begins to create high levels of oxytocin, and that's how we connect and become monogamous with other people. And so they said to me, why are you measuring oxytocin if these are the things that happen in biology? And I said, well, because I want my students to be in love with the future just like they're in love with somebody else. And I want them to connect to the love of God. And I want that relationship to be as bound as a relationship with their children. Are you with me still? Yes. And so then, if 227 times the amount of oxytocin is taking place in that person's biology, then they are in love with life. It is impossible to hold a grudge in the research when people are just given or administered a little oxytocin. The natural tendency is to forgive. You would never trade this feeling for anyone or anything, and that's the beginning of unconditional love. Wouldn't you agree? And that person doesn't have to try to forgive. They don't have to try to be spiritual or holy. It's just who they are. They would never lose this feeling for anyone or anything. It's too strong. So imagine an entire world like that, huh? Yes. All you'd want to do is give. Because think about this. When you master some aspect of yourself or you connect to that divine intelligence, and I just interviewed a person that was baptized. And as one lady said last year that was 78 years old, I lost my spiritual virginity today. She got hit by the heat. She got baptized in light, and that light is carrying information. And I looked at her, and her eyes were just white and popping out of her head. And she connected to that unified field. And by the way, there's always more love to experience in this field. And so, when that energy moves in you and moves through you and moves all around you, and you feel like it. The only thing you're going to want to do is want other people to feel the way you feel. And the only way you can do that is to give them something. That's the closest way to do it. So the act of giving emulates the divine, and when you do that, it moves even closer because you're no longer in lack, you're no longer in separation. You already know there's infinite abundance. It's who you are. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, in that elegant moment when we are watching a person's brain on the scan, and now we know when it's going to happen. You just see these downloads. Pa-choom, pa-choom, choom, choom, choom. And I say to the researchers that come and study us, she's going to pop, watch this. And they're seeing these big amplitudes, and they're thinking the person's having a seizure. And I'm saying to them, does she look like she's having a seizure? She's And all of a sudden, we see the right side of the brain talking to the left side of the brain, the front of the brain talking to the back of the brain. All of a sudden, here come the two hemispheres. The moment those two hemispheres come together, the union of duality, the union of polarity, the union of separation and opposites is called wholeness or love. And the same time, that heart busts wide open, and that person is in love with life, and her chemistry is changing because her energy is changing. And she's hooked up to a field that exists beyond the senses, a greater frequency. And I can walk around like this. I've done this so many times. And look at that person, and there are tears of joy rolling down her face. She is so whole, she is so complete that she can't want. She's no longer in lack. Wanting is lack. She feels like she already has everything. And in that place of wholeness is the place we create from. Are you with me still? Yes. So here's my final question before the break. Is it worth the effort? Yes. Yes. Turn the person next to you and have a conversation quickly about that. So, would you agree? Last point. If you take your attention off your body, because in survival, most of your attention is on your body, you think you're your body. If you take all of your attention off your body, would you agree then you are nobody? If you take your attention off of people in your life that you used to create an identity, the moment you take your attention off of someone, you become no one. Yes? You're not a face, you're not a skin color, you're not a culture, you're not a profession, you're not a mother, you're not a father, you're not a kid, you're not a grandma, you're not even a name. Are you with me still? Would you agree that if you take your attention off of objects and things in your life, then you would be in nothing? Yes? There's nothing there. And if you took your attention off the place you have to go, would you agree then you could go from somewhere to nowhere? And if you were no longer thinking about a predictable future or familiar past and you were completely in the present moment, would you go from some time to no time? Yes. And that is the nexus. That's the place we have to get in order for us to begin to become everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, and every time. Isn't that the quantum field? Yes. Now, I'm not talking about everybody in a body. I'm talking about the connection to everybody, to everyone, to everything, to everywhere, and every time. Isn't that the unified field? And the unified field are the laws that govern all of nature that science is struggling to put together. Are you with me still? But you can't enter as a somebody. Your consciousness, it's doing all of this, and people and objects and things and places, has to turn towards this consciousness. And you have to be present with it, right in front of the mirror. And the longer you can exist in that infinite place, eternal space, where there are no bodies, there are no things, there are no people, there are no places, there's no time, there's no light. It's an infinite, vast space of nothing physical. but where all possibilities exist. That means if you can't linger in that unknown and you keep returning to the knowns in your life, you keep investing your energy in this space and time. And if you keep your attention on the known, you keep creating the known. And the longer you can unfold as an awareness, as a consciousness in this infinite space, in the infinite unknown, that vast eternal field, the longer you put your attention and your energy on the unknown, the more you'll create unknown experiences in your life. I'll see you at 11 o'clock.